Argentina was the absolute most despised team at the 2026 tournament, while on the other side stood the Argentinians, who frankly were last night a complete disgrace. Truly useless in the final. Messi vanished completely. They were nasty, just as they had been the entire tournament. The entire world was praying for their downfall. And they did nothing themselves with a miserable performance at the World Cup final. They had more fights started than actual shots on target. They acted like total sore losers at the end. You had Molina striking Rodri when he came on to celebrate. Paredes trying to destroy Gavi and Eric Garcia. It was a disgusting display from the reigning world champions. They came to brawl, not to play football. But the bad and ugly scene certainly came at the end of the match. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And frankly, I found this just as predictable as it was disappointing. Now, Argentina being cast as the villains of world football is nothing new. In fact, one of the earliest examples of this dates back to the 1966 World Cup. In the quarterfinals at Wembley, Argentina faced the hosts in an incredibly violent and bad-tempered match. Just 30 minutes in, the German referee sent off the Argentinian captain, Antonio Ratin, for what he called violence of the tongue. There was only one problem. The referee didn't speak Spanish, and Ratin didn't speak German. Later, the referee Kreitlein admitted he actually could not understand what Ratin was saying. He claimed he could tell from his facial expressions and body language that he was being insulted. Ratin was in absolute shock. He refused to walk off, furiously demanding an interpreter to explain why he was being sent packing. The match ground to a halt for nearly 8 minutes as Argentine players swarmed the referee, threatening to walk off entirely. When Ratin finally left the pitch, he made sure everybody witnessed it. He sat right on the red carpet that was rolled out for the Queen of England, then grabbed and violently shook the Union Jack flag on his long walk off the field. The stadium atmosphere turned even more hostile. England ultimately won 1-0, but the chaos erupted after the final whistle. Rumors spread that the furious Argentine players cornered the referee Kreitlein in the tunnel, spitting right at FIFA officials after the game. For countless fans, especially across Europe, this match cemented a dark reputation for Argentina as a squad that pushed the limits, hunted the referees, and never hesitated to cross the line if it promised a crucial advantage. If the events at the 1966 World Cup made them develop a reputation as this ruthless squad, what unfolded in the 1978 World Cup was even more shocking. Argentina hosted the World Cup just 2 years after a brutal dictatorship seized absolute power under General Jorge Rafael Videla. At the same time, the nation was gripped by the Dirty War, an era in which thousands of political dissidents were locked up, tortured, murdered, or simply vanished forever. Many critics believed this global tournament was being used merely to polish the regime's image and distract the entire world from horrors happening behind closed doors. Then came one of the most infamous matches in football history. Heading into the final game of that second group stage, Brazil had already thrashed Poland 3-1 earlier that day. This meant Argentina knew exactly what was required. They had to defeat Peru by at least 4 goals to reach the World Cup final. To make matters even more suspicious, the Argentine match kicked off after Brazil's game, allowing them to play knowing the exact score they required. Then, something impossible happened. Argentina, a team that had scored just 6 goals in the entire tournament before that moment, suddenly crushed Peru 6-0. Many fans pointed to Peru's goalkeeper, Ramon Quiroga, who had actually been born in Argentina. Others claimed there was a secret political deal between the two nations, with rumors involving grain shipments, massive financial deals, and pressure from Argentina's brutal military government to secure the perfect result. To this day, none of those accusations have ever been legally proven. But the combination of the ruthless military dictatorship, the suspicious details surrounding the game, and that impossible scoreline meant that many people never fully accepted Argentina's first World Cup trophy. Then, of course, came the hand of God in 1986, where Maradona illegally scored, using his own hand against England as Argentina pushed on to win the World Cup. If you thought that was wild, wait until you hear about the 1990 World Cup. In the round of 16, Argentina faced their ultimate rivals Brazil in Turin. For most of the match, Brazil was by far the dominant team. They created chance after chance, striking the woodwork multiple times, and seemed destined to finally score. but everything shifted after a water break. Brazilian left back Branco took a water bottle from the Argentine physio. Not long after drinking it, Branco claimed he suddenly started feeling dizzy, weak, and struggling to keep up with the match's brutal pace. Seconds later, Diego Maradona picked up the ball, sliced through midfield, and delivered the precise pass that led to the game's only goal. For years after, angry Brazilian fans insisted the water bottle was spiked with something, but most people brushed it off as nothing but bitter excuses after a devastating defeat. In 2004, Diego Maradona went on Argentine television and casually joked that the bottle held something extra. So instead of denying the drama, he only fueled it more. Just another shocking example of a team willing to abuse the game's unwritten rules just for a tiny edge to win. Then, in 2006, Argentina played some absolutely gorgeous football, but that is not what they are remembered for. Losing on penalties to Germany, they ignited a massive brawl in the center circle. Those shameful scenes were beamed across the globe and instantly ruined what had been an incredible football match. For many neutral fans, this only cemented the narrative that Argentina simply refused to accept defeat. When things spiral out of control, their anger explodes into direct, ugly confrontation instead of showing sportsmanship. Look, they threw the exact same tantrum after losing the 2026 World Cup final. It makes complete sense why so many say they detest Argentina. There is real history of them being villains. And I'm not here to convince you to like the Argentinian squad or its stars. I've never done that. Even in my video called Why Social Media is Totally Wrong About Argentina, I never once defended those individual athletes. I only defended their refereeing calls. The problem is that while some actually have a valid reason to hate the Argentine squad, most of that anger is actually built on pure lies. You still have fans to this day spamming that picture of Messi's handball against the Dutch back in 2022. The ref played an advantage. Then Messi handballed, so the ref brought it back to the first foul. Under the rules, Mateo Lahoz was fully allowed to give just a free kick without showing a card. And look at the massive crowd that wept over Embolo getting his second yellow card in the match versus Switzerland. Embolo pulled the most shameless, pathetic dive I have ever seen. It was reviewed because Paredes was booked for it when the ref thought he fouled Embolo, but the replay clearly caught him auditioning for the Swiss Olympic diving team. Embolo literally let his own country down, yet Argentina got blasted way more than he did. There was a clear precedent for reversing a booking and penalizing a dive. The exact same scenario had happened when America played Paraguay, where Tim Ream was booked, but the review proved Almiron had clearly dove. But here is the truth. Those bitter critics do not care about the right call. I know this firsthand because I sat and watched games with them. They do not care if the call is legally right. They get furious because they feel that offside or foul whistle completely ruined the match's vibe. Look at that Egypt match. Fans absolutely lost their minds when Lisandro was obviously fouled right before they scored. By the official rulebook, VAR is fully authorized to check the build-up leading straight to a goal, even if the foul happened moments earlier. Just seconds earlier. Marwan Atiyah had committed a foul before the play ultimately led to that goal, making VAR fully authorized to step in. And when you actually analyze the replay, Lisandro Martinez was stomped on and had his shirt violently tugged. In the final, there was massive outrage over Spain's disallowed goal, and to be honest, I don't blame them. It was incredibly soft, but technically, it was the correct call. Otamendi was definitely stepped on, and he sold it beautifully. Now, not all this anti-Argentina fury is built on some wild conspiracy theory or deep-seated grudge. Often, their own aggressive antics have given fans every reason to despise them. In that brutal quarterfinal match against the Netherlands in 2022, Messi's handball went unpunished, but Paredes absolutely should have been sent off. He flew into a reckless challenge, then blasted the ball directly into the Dutch bench. He escaped with just one yellow card for that entire chaotic explosion. In general, the Argentinians seem to escape bookings constantly, which is incredibly bizarre considering how dirty they can play. They press and tackle so fiercely from the start that they force officials to lower the bar for what warrants a booking. So naturally, spectators have every right to scream foul play. Someone like Romero escapes punishment completely. While everyone was fixated on the Otamendi foul, Tagliafico's nasty stamp on Yamal was, To me, a far better example of a terrible refereeing blunder. That easily could have been a red. But my point is, there's a massive difference between saying, look, I can't stand Paredes because he's a bitter, aggressive loser and a bully who plays like he wants to injure someone, versus actually believing that Messi is paying off the referees. It is unreal. And that is the main issue I witnessed at this World Cup. So much of the hate was coming from casual fans who did not even watch the matches. They were falling for doctored clips and fake images, fabricated quotes, and out-of-context videos. The smear campaign against Messi was insane. Much of it was driven by blatant lies and wild propaganda. I mean, you know how many people actually believed a fake photo of Messi stepping on Jed Spence when it never happened? But no one cared about the truth. Like sheep, they just pushed whatever became the trending narrative. If it was anti-Argentina, they bought it. Every moment involving Argentina was overanalyzed while they ignored other teams. I mean, England literally scored due to a 100% factual error, the ball hitting an overhead cable. We are not debating a subjective, borderline refereeing call here. We are talking about a massive technical blunder. Yet, there was barely any outrage compared to when Embolo was rightfully sent off against Argentina. In the Portugal versus Croatia match, the ball sensor detected a stray hair, yet that very same sensor failed to register a ball hitting a cable. Those were the two most controversial games for referee decisions, but neither of them got nearly as much attention as the Argentina versus Egypt clash, where Egyptians threw away a 2-goal lead in 10 minutes, with every single goal from open play. They did not concede from some soft penalty. But here is the thing. Most of those who were crying about refereeing never cared about the sport's integrity or fairness. They just did not want to see Messi and Argentina winning. There is actually a sociological term for this. It is called the tall poppy syndrome. It is the simple idea that when someone or something becomes wildly successful, the world naturally wants to see them dragged right back down to earth. The more you win, the more they crave a new champion to take your place. Argentina is the perfect example of this. For nearly 30 years after their Copa America victory in 1993, they were viewed as one of football's most tragic giants. They always possessed world-class talent, but somehow found brutal ways to choke in the biggest stages. Many neutral supporters actually felt pity for them. Then everything shifted. When Lionel Scaloni took charge, Argentina stopped falling just short and evolved into a ruthless machine. Since 2021, they have conquered the Copa, the Finalissima, the 2022 World Cup, and another Copa America in 2024. In just a brief moment, they transformed from tragic underdogs to the giant everyone wanted to destroy. That is how it always goes in sports. Fans adore a redemption arc, but when that story keeps ending in gold, people begin praying for your downfall. Lionel Messi only made that intense divide. Even Messi is worshipped by millions. But that endless Messi versus Ronaldo debate has turned every single match into a toxic war of words. For die-hard Ronaldo fans, Argentina's glory felt like Messi's triumph. Honestly, imagine watching your hero fail every single World Cup, witnessing him make fewer final appearances than Shakira, watching him secure fewer open-play goal contributions than a random drone in that England versus Norway match. And then you are forced to watch Messi hoist the World Cup as the absolute best player on earth. I do not blame these people for their bitter resentment. The more his greatness was praised, the more they desperately wanted to tear him down. That meant every single controversial decision touching Argentina was instantly magnified. Any questionable penalty became proof of absolute corruption. Every tight VR became proof of a rigged Messi victory. Every single minor error was another thread in some massive dark conspiracy for his loudest haters. And then there is Emiliano Martinez. While his brilliance is undeniable, he remains a deeply polarizing and toxic figure. His penalty mind games, wild antics, and relentless efforts to torment opponents have crowned him a savior for his nation, but an absolute villain to everyone else. Some revel in his fire, while others despise his sheer lack of class. Look, I have said this before, even though the loudest critics probably will not sit through this entire story to actually hear my points. Regardless, I will say it again. I truly get why some loathe specific players on this team. Martinez thrives on fueling pure rage. Romero is reckless, borderline violent. Paredes is a bitter, sore loser. Enzo Fernandez is arrogant, and DePaul can drive you mad. They were shielded for years by Messi's holy shadow. But here is the catch. If you despise them for a real on-pitch moment, that is fair. But do not hate them just because you felt for some altered image on Instagram or some invented quote trending on social media. The simple truth is, the more victorious you are, the more they desperately pray for your downfall. And Argentina became the ultimate target that every other nation wanted to destroy. And Spain finally did it. To witness how brilliant the Spaniards truly were, you have to watch this story right here.